Hi everyone and welcome back to another video. Today's video is all about Gragas and we're going to show you 5 quick tips that will help you climb ranks with him. So the first tip we're going to go over today is by far the most important thing that you will need to know when playing Gragas. It makes him instantly far more impactful, and if you aren't doing it, then you're playing him wrong. Just like many other champions, Gragas' E can be used alongside his flash to make it very difficult to dodge. You can use this ability in any direction before flashing into your target and dealing a shed load of damage. You can also use this to bypass enemies or minions who may be in the way of the target you're trying to hit. This ability also hits multiple targets, so it can be insane for AoE damage and CC in teamfights. So most of the time you'll want to charge your W first, then E flash into your opponent and follow that with your Q and or your ultimate if you have them up for maximum damage and disruption. With E flash, it also makes your ultimate much harder to dodge, as when you use it without CCing your opponent first, it's quite an easy one to misplay, as it will simply just push your opponent away. This ability also pushes enemies in the direction that you use it in, which means you can sometimes use this to your advantage, pushing them into your allies or even just into tower range. This also works when E flashing. Don't forget you can also use this ability over walls too, so this can set up some tasty engages. Gragas' E also cancels all dashes and gap closers, making him an anti-melee monster. And this can work well with your flash to not only win duels but also save your teammates' lives. If you get really good at using this combo, you can even follow an enemy when they are flashing away from you. One final thing to mention about this ability is you can also flash before you E rather than E flashing, just to mix it up a bit and keep yourself unpredictable. Moving on to tip number 2, animation cancelling and mechanic tips. Now we're just going to take a quick look at a couple of small things to consider before looking at some big tasty combos. Firstly, your QE hides the animation of your Q, so as you fly towards your target, your barrel is hidden underneath your massive belly. This can be a great way to deceive your opponents as they won't expect that much burst. Your ultimate animation is also hidden when you're in your E. Your E will prevent the knockback from your ultimate, so you can use this when wanting to gain the damage from your ultimate without the knockback. You can also use this to pair it with your Q for even more damage. You can also use your W midway through your ultimate animation. Charge it up before using your ultimate, and then as they fly past you, you will hit them for a big chunk of burst, especially when partnered with a Sheen item like Lichbane. So now that we're familiar with a few little tips and tricks, we're going to move on to the main event, which is combos. Gragas has a ton of different ways that he can combo his opponents down. You can get very creative with them once you've learned how to do them. For the first combo, you're simply going to charge your Q and then ultimate your opponent into it. It's a pretty simple way to catch your opponent off guard with your burst damage. This one is just using the same combo as before, but with the rest of your abilities being added to bring more overall burst. For this next one, you're going to charge your Q like before. Then you're going to E into your target whilst animation cancelling your ultimate and knocking them back into your barrel. This is another way to burst your opponent whilst leaving them very little time to react. For this combo, cast your W, then E flash onto your opponent and use your Q and ult as soon as you arrive alongside an auto attack. This one is more focused on bursting an enemy down, but will also scatter all the enemies surrounding your target. This can be very effective if you don't have a lot of time to set up, but it is a little easier for your opponent to react to. For this combo, cast your W and then use your ultimate whilst flying towards your target with your E. Instantly Q, auto and Q2 when you get there. This is one of the fastest ways to achieve Gragas' full burst in a short space of time. This next one is yet another way to burst your opponent down, but this time leading with your ultimate. Cast your W, then ultimate the target into you, then E, Q, auto attack and Q to finish the combo. For the last combo we're going to show you today is aiming for the maximum AoE damage you can do in a team fight if your enemies are grouped up but you still want to avoid splitting them up. Cast your W first, then ultimate the group of enemies. E flash into them to cancel that knockback from your ultimate, and then finish off your combo with your empowered auto attack and Q. Be careful not to get this one wrong though, as you could easily just save all of your enemies and completely ruin your teammates' chances of a team fight. That brings us to tip number 4, utilising the Fog of War when ganking. Gragas is a champion that can be incredibly effective when all of his abilities hit his targets, but due to the limited range and the obvious spell animations, his abilities can be somewhat easy to react to. Utilising the Fog of War on Gragas can make your gank so much more effective. If you can't see him charging up his W, you can't see him start to cast his E, or you can't see his ultimate until it's too late, you will very much likely regret it. When ganking as Gragas, whether that's playing him in lane and roaming or just simply jungling as we more commonly see this champion nowadays, always try to sweep brushes or sit on control wards as you engage, as it will be so much harder for your enemies to react to. You can also gank effectively by going behind enemy turrets without them knowing and slap them in the face with a massive beer barrel. So that brings us to our last tip of the day, objective steals and map movement. As we come to the end of this video, we've just got a few more things to mention before we leave you to crack on in your solo queue adventure and become a Gragas one-trick pony. Gragas' burst is not to be underappreciated. When it comes to contesting barons or dragons, you can actually look to steal them without even getting close. Your Q also grants vision, which will come in handy. If you time this correctly, your fully charged Q, when combined with your ultimate, can deal an absolutely ridiculous amount of damage in a short space of time. Due to the decent range of these abilities, you don't even need to risk your life by going into the pit. Simply fire your Q over the wall, and then when you think you're ready, throw your ultimate over and detonate your Q just as your ultimate lands. And you have the potential to steal one of these from the enemy team and potentially change the course of the entire game. Gragas' E can also be used to get over a ton of walls in the game, which can make for some pretty insane map mobility when it comes to ganking or roaming or even just setting up plays when fighting. There are plenty of walls that you wouldn't think you'd be able to get over, so definitely experiment and try to familiarize yourself with all of the different walls around the map. Try to use some of these examples as a guide. That wraps up our 5 quick tips to climb ranked video featuring Gragas. We hope you enjoyed this video, and please leave us a comment on who you would like to see next. Take care, and we'll see you all soon.